Welcome to Season 2 of the Erotic Realm podcast, where we explore the world of eroticism, one erotic realm at a time. I'm Em, a sexologist and kinkster. The mission of the Erotic Realm is to humanize desire in all of its forms, including darker desires. Each episode, we dive deep into the psychology of desire with a sexpert, everyday kinkster, or a kink expert. This is an independent podcast. To support it, please consider becoming a paid subscriber at psychologyofdesire.com, where you'll also find deep dives into desire and surveys that you can participate in. You can also sign up there to get the podcast delivered directly to your inbox when it's released. If you'd like to support the podcast, please consider checking out the brands that support the Erotic Realm. There's Firm Tech, whose tech ring offers fascinating insights into sexual health by tracking erection quality and nocturnal function. Splash Blanket, who create luxurious waterproof blankets designed for comfort, intimacy, and real-life messes. ProDX Health, who offer discreet, at-home STI testing. While Karoo and Lovents make premium pleasure technology, from couple toys to long-distance interactive devices. Then there's Lioness, who are doing something truly unique in sex tech, using biofeedback and orgasm data to help people better understand their arousal. I'm also partnering with Flow and Desire, science-backed libido support supplements designed to support sexual vitality and well-being. These are brands that I find genuinely interesting, science-backed, and I've used them myself, so they come with my recommendation. You can find the links to all of them in the episode description. If you try them, use the links below. It supports the show at no extra cost to you. And now, back to today's conversation. The following conversation explores what happens when an unusual fantasy becomes something much more than fantasy and gives someone access to an entirely different way of experiencing themselves. In this episode, I'm joined by Desmond, known within the kink community as Rapidash, to explore the fascinating psychology of pony play. For years, the desire to become a pony existed quietly in the recesses of Desmond's imagination. Then, after discovering the kink community, he finally found a space where that fantasy could become real. Together, we explore what pony play actually is, the psychological transformation Desmond calls pony space, and what happens when the latex, mask, bridle, and tack go on and Rapidash begins to emerge. We also explore submission, service, and the surprising relationship between surrender and empowerment, why removing human speech can deepen an altered headspace, and how something can create intense physical and psychological arousal without necessarily being sexual. This is the conversation about pony play, but underneath it is a much bigger exploration of fantasy and identity, and whether sometimes our most unusual desires aren't simply telling us what we want to do, but showing us something about who we want permission to become. Enjoy. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Erotic Realm. Today, I'm really looking forward to exploring an erotic realm that we haven't explored before, the psychology of pony play with Desmond. Welcome, Desmond.
G'day, Emma. Thank you so much for having me.
Happy to have you. So to start us off, we just like to get an idea of who you are when you're not exploring your kinky self. What do you get up to?
Myself, I'm usually just like to just relax, either online in the virtual space or just go for drives, explore out a little bit, get into the outdoors, into nature, and just overall just have some wholesome times, just relax and breathe the fresh air.
Wonderful. I love it. Sounds very Australian. So what about your sexuality? How would you describe your sexuality and your kinky identity?
Yeah, sure. So I would say been in the community, BDSM community now since 2017. And throughout that time, I've always been a straight male by orientation. And I suppose all the all the exploration from there really then built into evolving my pony play side from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really just a very positive journey from the start when I first got into it. And then everything tend to evolve and escalate from there in a very positive way, because I started learning a bit more about the kink itself. And even though sometimes I like to do research on what makes me feel so wonderful, I'm in pony headspace, as I call it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I enjoy just enjoying the mysticism of not knowing why it makes me feel so good. It's just something magical about it that I don't need to find the understanding. But in saying that, sometimes I do enjoy to have a little bit of research just to see what it is that makes me tick. But it's all been one positive road so far, and it's just going to keep going on.
I love that it's been purely positive for you. We love to hear that in people's kink journeys. So for someone who's listening that's never encountered this term pony play before, how would you describe pony play?
Yes, for sure. So I'd probably say for pony play, it's the identification with your spirit animal, in this case, a horse or a pony, and it's taken on either, say, that psychological, physiological, or sexual identity as that horse, or if you're looking at the other side of the spectrum towards, say, the owner, the mistress, the trainer, to actually have control of that person that identifies as that animal themselves. And I suppose the biggest thing that is really big for me in the pony space is that it makes me feel like something grander, something better than myself. Like, I always tell people that I'm a very flawed individual. I've got a lot of rough edges, but pony play and my persona Rapidash, when I programmed or built him, I put all the best parts of me into him. And then it got to the point where, even though I started to, from the objective observer, would just see someone who's in leather and tack, it would really just be in that fantastical mindset and bringing to life something that is no longer in your head, but it's tangible. And it can be seen, and it can be felt, it can be touched. And what's more is that one thing I love to do, particularly in the part of the eroticism sphere, is that I love to give all that energy to someone and creating that, I suppose you can call that electric charge in someone else, that they can feel that electricity through the reins every time they're handling me, knowing that they've got a very powerful but a very affectionate, submissive, and very loving pony at their side. And I'd probably say that probably goes a little bit deeper than I would have liked to, but I'd probably say that's what pony play is for me, and to anyone else just getting into it, that's, I suppose, the foundation of it, and then build from there.
Oh, we love going deep here. So
Lovely.
am I right in thinking that you're describing yourself when you are exploring your pony persona as the best version of yourself?
Definitely. And one thing I actually also didn't touch on as well was that primarily I'm asexual in this kink. So for me, it's about more that eroticism for me to actually build that charge up through, I suppose, the aesthetic or the psychology of being in pony headspace, or giving that power to someone else. So, and usually if I'm with someone that I've just met at a party, or if I've maybe, say, gone with someone I've got a bit of a rapport with, then it's primarily there just to be involved in the scene and in the boundaries of the scene that you've dictated or you're consented to. I think it's only when I've had maybe, say, a intimate relationship with someone, and it's usually been behind closed doors, and probably then even, say, probably on a ratio, I would say, if I'm by myself, probably 90% asexual, 10% sexual, or if I'm with a partner that I know, it'd probably be 50-50.
Yeah, I imagine that's one of the biggest misconceptions about this kink, right? A lot of people think that it must be a sexual thing that you're doing, but you're saying that you are predominantly asexual, and for you, pony play is not a sexual thing that you do. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's actually getting into the psychology of your fantastical self. And even when I first got into the kink itself, I used to see a lot of pictures, a lot of commissions, a lot of artwork and imagery. And what got me really hooked was this thought that I didn't really want a commission or an artwork done of me. I wanted to be the artwork. So I started trying to be fair, like my pony persona actually got me a little bit more active. So I started, say, pushing myself a little bit harder every time I went out to the gym, or I try to run that little bit faster, because I told myself I want my pony to be almost an embodiment of what attributes I have physically. And then from there, it built into the sort of mantra where it's like, why don't you just self-commission yourself to be the best person of yourself you can possibly be? And not only for myself, but also for someone else, so that when someone does, say, handle me at an event, and you think to yourself with, say, actual horses, they want to look their best, they want to put on their best performance, they want to almost make their handler, their owner, the focal point. A bit like a singer on a stage, and they've got backup dancers. The backup dancers will actually help to create the environment, but they won't pull focus from the singer themselves. And I like to do that in my pony persona too when I'm with someone, because I'm very much a submissive in that respect too. I'll always try and make my owner, my mistress, look as the more dominant, the more powerful one. I'll always stand behind them, stand to their side. I'll take a knee so that they're the dominating force, and I'm just there as the amplifier.
Fascinating. Okay, so you mentioned that your kink journey started around 2017. Can you take us back to the beginning of that journey? Because you mentioned that you weren't exploring pony play as much as you are now. What happened in 2017? How did it all get started?
So I would probably say it was a little bit of everything, almost a bit like, I'd probably describe it as a number of stars in the sky that never aligned until I kind of connected the dots. So there were all these little things throughout my early life. For instance, I'd be around, say, dogs, cats, birds around my neighborhood, but anytime I saw a horse, I thought it was so intimidating. But then I remember this one time I went for a bicycle ride, and this horse in the pastures just came up to me because it was curious about me, and I thought, I have to get away from this thing because it's going to trample me. And then it was just so inquisitive and so gentle. And then other things, such as when I really started to, I do a bit of surfing in my spare time as well, get down to Phillip Island or Torquay, jump into a wetsuit. And I remember this one time the wetsuit was way too tight for me. And then I jump out of the water all glistening and shiny and compressed. And I'm like, this is a really amazing feeling. And then take a little bit further down the track, and then I get into my motorcycle license, I get into my boat license. I love the thrill of going fast. And I'm like, oh yeah, me as a person, as a human, I'm not that fast, but I'm sure that if my fantastical self would go as fast, this is how the speed would be at. And then all these little things in life kind of equaled up into pony play. But it wasn't until I actually started to, like you said, back in 2017, where it was just by sheer luck that I just came across this profile. I don't know what I was searching at the time. I just a bit like a leaf in the breeze. And I just caught onto this picture of this person in full pony play gear. And it was just like all those stars scattered in the sky just aligned. It just connected, and it just made me realize, had this really strong epiphany where that was it. I don't know what I was missing, but that was it. And then especially then, because the 5th of January 2017 is Rapidash's birthday, so I'll never forget that date. But I started to explore, say, different types of tack and leather. I wanted to try and get into the community, because BDSM to me was a very foreign, and almost also there was a lot of stigma around it. So when I went to my first event, a Newbies Munch, and I was sweating bullets. I just did not know what to expect. And I thought I'd have to pay homage to the mistress and the patriarch of the establishment I was going to. But it was just such a wonderful and welcoming and friendly group of people that just made me feel very welcome. And it just went in from there. And then really from there, when I said, this is what I do, pony play is a thing. And one thing I found as well is that pony play is very niche. Within the animal role play genre, it's very much dominated by pups and kittens, but then you've got other animals as well. And for me, I thought maybe it's something that I shouldn't be doing this. It's too taboo. This is not the right thing. It's impure. But the further I learned about it, and the more I got into the scene and explained what I did, the more I realized that this is a thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And it just built from there.
Beautiful. What a journey. So you mentioned that epiphany that you had when you saw that particular image and realized that pony play was your thing, you said this was it. Can you take us back to that moment a little bit more? What did it feel like in your body, or what thoughts or feelings were you having in that moment?
Like something detonated in my chest in a very positive way too.
Wow.
And I have not only my chest, but it was only also in my head. And the one thing I find as well, that when I get into Rapidash as the persona, and I usually refer to it as a Rapidash heartbeat, where my heart tends to pound in such respect that it's almost like a rippling effect. A bit when you throw rocks into a pond, but then you throw multiple ones and they resonate off of each other. And that's one thing I found as well. There was just this going back, to that 2017 image, and I saw that pony play in all their kit, and it just felt like all these little pebbles falling in my own mental pond and were just rippling and bouncing off of each other and then just continuing in symphony. And that's probably the best way I can possibly describe it. Because sometimes I tell myself is that potentially what I'm feeling transcends words. And why bother? But I suppose this is as close as I can say. But it just made me realize, I suppose, something that I was looking for that I finally found, and even without even meaning to. We could have gone back in time and got an alternative reality. Maybe I got a phone call at that exact same time just before, and I would have never found this because I got distracted or something. But either way, I'm so glad it did, because there was something there. Maybe it would have taken a few more years, but it was just like, again, just that rippling effect, that detonation of whatever positive emotions finally came into being. Like, that was it.
Well, you do a great job of describing it for someone that finds it hard to describe that feeling. So thank you for taking us into that moment. So you've had this image, you've realized this is it. You've started going to munches. You realize there's other people out there like you that are also ponies and masters and mistresses of ponies. What was it like the first time that you met someone else that had this kink? Do you remember that moment?
I very much do. And it was, I would say it was benign to me, because not only was this like my first time in kink, but also in terms of relationships on the outside. Like, I was 24 at the time, 6 years from getting to high school, and I was very introverted, didn't really have like a girlfriend as such. And I didn't really have that, I suppose, those connections with someone before. So when I actually met someone that had an interest, and they were a mistress, or an owner, I should say, and a handler, and I was a pony, I thought, wow, I've always read about that other side of the dynamic, but I'm actually meeting someone for the very first time. So I would say it was a very benign concept to me, as well as relationships, because it was like, I suppose I was just overthinking it, you could say, too much. I was very analytical. So as opposed to as the years when they flew by, and then I started moving around a lot with work, meeting other people, and everything was more of a natural flow. But at the very start, I actually wasn't too sure. But the funny part was that was my natural human side thinking. Anytime I got into pony headspace as Rapidash, everything seemed to flow. There was no over analytical thinking. There was just natural, pure thought, and sometimes even just through emotion and just through body language too. Because in pony headspace, I don't talk. I don't know what it is, but I let my body do the talking. And just from there is when I just started really getting into it, because it got to a point where for the first time we went into her backyard, but nice and private too. And it was actually one of the very first times I had been out in Rapidash in all my gear. And it just felt natural and it felt right. And there was not a care in the world that for all that moment, wasn't even thinking about, say, the past or the future. Like, everything was in that moment. And there was nothing else but me and her in that universe, and no one else. So I suppose that's how we kind of got into it. It was a very clunky start for me, But then as I started to get into, I suppose, the dynamics of everything and realizing how it is and what's submissive and being, as opposed to just me there being silent, actually being active and open with both my mistress and also others, people that she interacted with, and also learning about the etiquette and the protocol, which I really love too. So it just really was actually just helped enhance that journey.
Beautiful. So we know that pony play is your thing. I always like to ask guests about their top 3 kinks. So I'm curious what you'd have to say to that question. What are your top 3 kinks? Is it pony play all the way, or are there other kinks that come in there?
There's also others as well, because pony play, it can be also incorporated into others as well, into other elements as well.
Sure.
So definitely pony play would say, like, if we put up a podium, pony play definitely takes gold medal. I'd probably say silver goes to rope. Rope and pony play is actually pretty closely interconnected. But not only that, just even sometimes where I've been with, say, riggers and there hasn't been any of my pony sona present. Sometimes Rapidash does pop out, so they'll have me all like wrapped up in a TK, and then they'll start to hold me, and then I'll start to nuzzle them. And that's a part of the pony play that starts to emerge. And let's see, at bronze, I would probably say submission and service would probably be there, because, and that kind of all ties back into second and first place as well, because for me, I do very much enjoy providing a service to someone. It can be either, say, being by their side. It can be as a loyal pony. It could be, say, giving them cart rides and actually just hooking me up and just going wherever they want me to. It can be just actually being at their side, or even if for whatever reason it does become an intimate matter where it's like I'm at their complete disposal in the confines of what has been consented to. So I would say those are the top 3.
Yeah, wonderful. I hadn't thought about the rope and pony play together before, but of course that makes total sense. So you say that you're also a submissive. It comes in on bronze on the podium. And you've also mentioned a couple of times that you experience what you call pony space. I'm curious to hear from you. Have you experienced subspace outside of pony space? Are they the same thing? Are they different? How would you describe each of those?
I would say for me, they're interconnected. So the pony headspace for me is adopting that horse, that pony sona, to then be by my owner's or handler's side. But there are some times where, and funny enough, it actually also ties into the equipment that I wear, because for me, pony play is full transformation pony play, that there is nothing left of my physical self. So usually for pony headspace, I'll be in complete gear.
What is that gear? Can you take us into that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get back to that last part. So the complete gear will be, say, for instance, like a full body cat suit, which also has a hood, so it'll actually look like just a ski mask attached to the actual suit itself. It's also skin tight, and so that way it actually reveals just pretty much all the contours, which one thing I really love as well. And then on top of that, you'll have your chest harness. You'll have a tail harness as well, so it'll actually be made up of either real or synthetic horsehair. You'll also have as well stuff that I kid you not, you can get it from your local horse shop, just things like wraps that you can put around your wrists and your ankles as well. The biggest one I'd say, though, because you've also got your hoof covered, your hooves as well, like gloves that you'd wear on your hands and your feet. But the biggest one for me, it's the mask itself, which I didn't realize there were such works of art out there when it comes to the pony play masks. But essentially that would be a complete transformation. There would be nothing left from my old self to my new self. And that's one thing I love about the pony play as well, is the anonymity, because I could just get out there and you would have no idea the person walking to you on the street is a U-Butte pony player. And I do enjoy that part as well. So that part there is the full transformation part. However, and tying back into that initial question you asked with the service or the submissive headspace, sometimes I won't be in full transformation gear. So say I might sometimes just have my underwear on, I'll have my chest harness, and I'll have an open face bridle. So I've actually got the bit in my mouth that can be pulled on by the mistress or the owner. And from there, it's more so that I'm actually at their service, still incorporating that pony identity, but at the same time, I'm more there to serve them, whatever that service may be. It might be as very simple as just standing by their side, holding their purse or their crops or their equipment, serving them drinks or food, giving them massages or rubs, or standing by their side, kneeling, so that I'm actually ready to take any order that they have. So still incorporating that pony sona headspace, but at the same time, there, like you said, there is more of that submissive service space side.
Mm-hmm. So for you, it's a transformation wrapped up solely in the putting on the gear or taking the gear off, or do you have a particular ritual or process that you go through outside of that as well?
You said it perfectly just then, the ritual.
Mm.
And that's actually part of the scene itself. So what would usually happen is that I might say just start off with my catsuit on, and you would put the premise of the scene as a handler walking into the stable and having their horse there to greet them. And me being in there in the catsuit gives them that canvas that have my tack on the side. And what they might do is before they even start to put all that tack on me, they might say something like a very soft toothbrush, and I'll start brushing me down as you would say a real horse. You would start to give them pats. You'd start to give them like affection, saying what a good boy you are. And just that really helps to just kind of slowly turn those gears in my head to kind of slowly deep dive into that headspace of Rapidash. And then as each part of that tack slowly asphyxiates itself to my body, and it's almost like that transformation starts to take effect. And probably one of the last things that would occur, or sometimes even the first things would occur, is that when the mask goes on, because it's also got lacing at the back, is that when that lacing just tightens up, and it's the last component of a masterpiece that just gets completely transformed. There is nothing left of my imperfect self. Desmond is gone, and Rapidash is here, and he's in just complete control. Like there'll always be that 1 or 2% control that I'll always keep on the throttle, just in case I need to come back really quick, which has never happened. But it's just a complete and utter transformation. And that, hence why I was saying to be that amplifier for someone. And they in turn do that for me when they actually just create that transformation. I'm not too sure as well. And one thing I'll say to all the viewers and that are listening as well, I keep my content all, I like to say it's PG rated. So you can jump online, look at Rapidash. It's just all pure transformation. You can actually see what that actually looks like. Just there's nothing else left of my physical self. It's a complete other person, really.
It's so fascinating. It's really interesting as well because you describe feeling more majestic and powerful in pony space, and you're just talking about Rapidash taking control, which is really interesting because you're also entering a submissive role when you're in this pony space. So can you speak a little bit more to that? Because there might be someone listening that's wondering, how can you simultaneously feel submissive and also empowered in this pony space?
That is very fair, because one thing I find is that usually through my natural, I suppose, movements, just everyday life, I might say move around in a certain way. I might have a certain gait. Whenever I jump into pony play and when I'm starting to transform as Rapidash, things start to just take a natural change where I'll start to tense up. My shoulders tend to go back. My chest comes out. My head kind of props up, almost like proper etiquette and poise and posture. A bit like how you would actually want a horse to move around during a dressage event. You don't want them to be slack. You want them to be elegant. You want them to be on point. And then once that transformation is complete, you'd usually have something very powerful, very almost like you said, majestic sitting there. But with all that power and majesty, it's not enough. Sure, I can be a very powerful animal, but horses themselves, they're very attuned to human emotion, I found, because something that I've loved to do in my research of all this was also research real horse behaviors. And they're always just so, sure, they're 500 kilos of moving muscle, but they're just some of the most affectionate, most loving, in tune animals out there with their human companions. And one thing I found is that these powerful creatures would let these smaller humans ride them, to dictate them, to move them around, to order them around, and they'll do exactly that. And it just fascinated me so much of how I can actually bring that into the submissive and the service space, whereby you might have, say, something or animal that's very powerful and can pretty much charge straight through the room, but they won't, because they'll just be there at their owner's side, ready to adhere to every single command, because they want them to make them feel special, to make them feel beautiful, and to make them feel loved and almost more powerful than themselves are.
Wonderfully said.
Sorry, sometimes I just get kind of carried away with it all.
It's very much welcome here. Very much welcome here. You can speak for as long as you like. This is a long form podcast, and it's all about going into your erotic realm and hearing your ponderings. So thank you for sharing so much of yourself. We're appreciating it.
Wonderful. You're welcome.
Now, one of the traditions on the podcast is exploring a quote with each guest. So today's quote is from an ancient Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, and he once said, "Man is most nearly himself when he achieves the seriousness of a child at play." So this made me think of you when I was preparing for the podcast, because it's saying that play doesn't necessarily take us away from who we are, but sometimes it might actually give us access to these parts of ourselves that ordinary adult life doesn't make much room for. So when you hear that quote, what comes up for you when you're thinking about pony play? Do you think the play is a huge part of it for you? And do you think that as adults, we underestimate the psychological importance of play?
That's a real good one there, because I'm actually Greek by background as well. So I know a few philosophers, not educationally or academically, but that one actually, on face value, and I say face value because I'll definitely look into it further, I'd probably say as probably adults, there's a certain way we're expected to act, almost like a social, I suppose, how would you call it, a script almost. And sometimes we stay within the left and right lane of that script. Whereas I suppose that part about that childhood love, that freedom, that fun, that play is something that I think we should actually permit ourselves to explore and enjoy from time to time. I'd probably say like same with BDSM. It's right place, right time, as they say. So as much as we'd like to indulge in that childhood enjoyment and fantasy and everything that comes with it out there, I suppose when brought about in the right space, and it's the same with, I suppose, pony play for me, is that sure, I never bring it up with people outside the BDSM circles. When I'm outside, I'm usually very professional, very well behaved, and it's the same with pony play. But I'd probably say as well as that, going back to that play, that freedom, I'd probably say gets brought out at I'd probably say around the right times. Honestly, I'll have to have a think about that more, sorry.
That's okay. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, I wanted to explore some research with you as well, which goes into it a little bit deeper, this idea of play. So perhaps we can explore a little bit more together through that, because this is another tradition on the podcast. And I found one, there's not a lot of research out there on pony play specifically yet, but I did find one by these researchers, Langridge and Lawson, who did a study called The Psychology of Puppy Play. And they analysed written accounts from people involved in pup play and conducted 25 in-depth interviews to explore what the experience meant psychologically for them. And what they found was interesting, and it's backing up exactly what we've been talking about. They found that sexual pleasure was only one part of the picture for some of the participants. But participants also described things like relaxation, escape from their everyday selves, physicality and play, relationships and community building, and opportunities to extend or express different aspects of themselves. So one of the themes in the research was this escape from the everyday self. When you enter pony space, does it feel like you're escaping yourself or becoming more yourself or both?
I would probably say more myself. And first of all, kudos to the researchers for actually undertaking such a study. I actually didn't realize they were out there, but they
Yeah,
were
there's a
all,
couple.
yeah, they were, but all those things that you mentioned that those puppy players experience, they're all on point with very similar things that I experience as well.
Mhm.
So going back to that, it's not necessarily for me escaping from myself. It's more like you just mentioned, being more of myself. There's another part of me that's unlocked. I suppose it goes back to what you mentioned prior with the Greek philosopher about how as adults we can have to be on this certain path, this script, but then you permit yourself to actually unlock this other part of you that usually society doesn't really see or doesn't
Mm.
really understand. And I'll probably say the part that I love about the becoming more of myself is that I see something grander when I'm in pony headspace. And it's strange because I'm the same person you would think it is, but particularly with all that transformation, and it might be the same with the pup players as well. It might not be full transformation, it might be partial. It might just be just incorporating that headspace without any gear. Just something that puts you into a certain mental mindset that makes you believe, and then having someone that will actually also help you believe that even further, that you are something grander or something more of yourself or different aspect of you that's never really seen by anyone else but those special to you.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so the research also was talking about the importance of these relationships and community as an important part of this animal role play in general. So now that
Hmm.
you've been part of the community for years, what role does being recognized and understood by other people as Rapidash allow for you to exist as Rapidash? Does that have a huge impact on you?
It most certainly does, because one thing I found about the community is that, and particularly with my experience being so positive and how welcoming they were, it's almost like I wanted to give something back to that community as well.
Mm.
And the way I tried to do that was through just actually coming forward out of my shell and showing that, look what you've helped create.
Hmm.
That there was this wonderful canvas that I had, wasn't too sure, and you guided my strokes, you guided the painting and the every brush to actually creating this beautiful persona that I probably wouldn't have been able to do it without you. And particularly as well with pup players, with kitten players, pony players, any types, is they always try and find each other. There'll always be that type of community where they try and come together, either as, say, pups themselves or ponies themselves in that space, or even, say, the handlers or owners, mistresses, the tops of the dynamic. There'll always be not even just that local community, but I find particularly there's also the international community as well. And FitLife does that very well, whereby you can actually find, if you don't have anyone in your local space, you can very easily find someone, say, in an adjacent city or in, say, another part of the world. Even though there might be, say, 5,000 kilometers from you north, then at the very least, you've actually got that ability to share thoughts, to share some connections and friendships when you have that rapport, to actually trust in them, and actually then also build and actually find others to bring into that fold too.
Mm-hmm. So are there particular events online for pony play, people to meet?
There are a few. I would
Hmm.
probably say there's places like, say, I've heard that there's Discord channels. I've
Okay.
heard that particularly in the States and in Europe, they have bigger groups too, because one thing I've found in the Aussie BDSM community, it's a bit smaller.
Hmm.
Let's be honest, in comparison to Europe being the kinky capital of the world, and then you've got other places like, say, Southeast Asia and America that are much bigger. But I'd probably say with the pony players, it's they're rare and far and few between. So usually we have to rely on, say, international sort of chats, or I mean, myself as a pony, I'm trying to think. I'd probably say the closest one to me is maybe New Zealand. Now that I
Hmm.
think about it, but it doesn't stop us.
No,
There's
of
there's
course
times
not.
where even there's times even where events have happened and people have just taken plane rides across state borders and overseas and everything. I've personally never done it, but I actually got to meet one of my idols from London. He was a pony player who had was an inspiration to me in my earlier years from the United Kingdom. Goes by the name Trotter too, so I'll just give a shout out there. But he ended up actually coming to Australia, and just so happened we were in the same place, same time. I was like, look, I really have to meet you. You're a big inspiration to how it all happened. And even just that little thing right there, where even though we might say have oceans and kilometers and land are separating everyone, we'll always try and find each other. And that's really wholesome as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank goodness for the internet.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. You've said that a huge part of your pleasure as a pony comes from seeing your pony state heighten the experience and desire of your dominant. And you've described this is a kind of selfless service or devotion and the reward of what you're able to evoke in them. But I just want to flip that for a moment and look at the other side. What makes someone a good handler for Rapidash?
That's a good question, because I would probably say, particularly because it never starts off as Rapidash and the handler themselves right there in the space and then you just go.
Sure.
There's always some rapport. There's a foundational background to leading up into that scene. And usually during that time, that's when the communication, the trust and consent as the key values really start to play in. But we'll always talk about, say, what attributes and how does Rapidash enjoy being handled. So I would probably say for me, being handled as Rapidash, I do enjoy a very affectionate, very loving touch. But at the same time, I also do enjoy, say, discipline, the high protocol. So for instance, say if you would hypothetically get me, say, in a paddock and they do training, I wouldn't mind a firm but fair hand. Not so much into the heavy impact play. So when, say, the lashes and the bells start coming out, but if you start to get the whip and cracking it by my side to try and get me to, say, turn in a different direction, or grab the whip out to actually just hit my flank to actually help me change in that way, then that's all good and well. And particularly when as well, because some people, it's not just about the actual pony play themselves. Some people enjoy actually what's called a forced pony play. So where someone actually does not want to be a pony at all, but the mistress saying, no, you will be my pony. I'm going to make you that way. And it'll get to the point. And it'll get, so you look at the other side of the spectrum whereby you might have, say, someone just running around in that backyard, for instance, and the mistress or the owner will actually lasso them, force them to the ground, wrangle that bit in their mouth, all to their absolute displeasure, saying, I don't want any of this, can't articulate things. It's like, nope, ponies don't speak now, and stuff like that. For me, though, it's more so just actually having that I suppose that bioequine handling and experience. The way you treat a normal horse is probably the way Rapidash want to be treated. So if you start to abuse or to try and do anything like that to a real horse, they're probably going to run away from you, or buck, or just not be disinterested in you. So I'd probably say, to answer, sorry, probably went on a bit of a tangent there.
No,
but to answer the actual the best handler for Rapidash would be someone that actually has affection and care towards their horse, and that then would be returned to them in kind.
And would you say Rapidash today is different from the pony that you originally imagined all those years ago in 2017 when you first had that epiphany?
Is most certainly involved, because when I first had that epiphany, I had this concept, almost like an ancient Greek sculptor with just a block of marble. I had the marble, but I had no idea how to sculpt it. And then throughout the months and as the years went by, I slowly made certain changes. I made certain contours. I made certain strikes on the marble in a certain way that actually went to developing Rapidash. I probably had a finished product pretty, I'd say pretty close, because after that first time I got into the scene, probably about 3 to 6 months later, I was at my first event. And from there, I'd probably say the first version of Rapidash came out, and it was just an overwhelming experience. It's just the way people interacted with me, actually treated me as the actual physical horse, started to deep dive into it afterwards, and then even coming out of that headspace and being guided back down to earth to make sure I was still flying up in the air. And then as the years then went by, I started to, I suppose, like you mentioned, did a bit more research, had a look into what was causing me to feel the way I was, but also because I wanted to try and be even a better I wanted to be a better pony. I wanted to be a better service submissive. I wanted to be just the best version possible. And very similar to when you say you go to school for academics or you go to the gym to try and get the best possible, say, personal best on your bench press or something like that. I wanted to try find the best version of Rapidash, the best service representation I could possibly be. So whoever had the opportunity to have those reins and have that electricity flow into them from those reins can actually feel what it was like to have the best possible version of Rapidash that they possibly could have.
Mm-hmm. Has becoming Rapidash changed anything about the person that you are in day-to-day life? Has Rapidash influenced Desmond?
He most certainly has, because it got to the point where I realized that, as I said, I was putting all the best parts of me into Rapidash, and it got to the point where every single time I tacked up as him, there would be nothing but pure positive emotions. And even where there might have been times where that might have actually been increased or decreased, it was just he always just flung back to true north. There was just always just a very positive outlook. And it got to the point where I realized that what I created was giving stuff back to me too. Where I actually found that I was actually feeling what Rapidash would feel when he was in kit, just that happiness and that joy, that there was not that mundane feelings of everyday life, that parts of Rapidash were actually flowing back into me. And it got to the point I thought it was very special, because how else could something I create give something back? And then, it's probably one of those parts I haven't explored too often. But he most certainly brought something back into my life. That's for sure.
Yeah, you sound emotional speaking about it. Can I ask a little bit more about that?
For sure.
Yeah, what emotions are you feeling describing that?
I'd probably say joy. Biggest one is joy. When I think to myself of the things that I've created throughout my life, I'm not a very artistic person. I haven't really done much in terms of creating, or I've always wanted to. I've just haven't really given it a go, or maybe I just might have failed one too many times. But Rapidash was something I got right, very right. And maybe it was by complete accident, but it wasn't something where I just created it and just said, that's good enough. He just kept evolving. I don't know how, but he just kept evolving. And when those feelings of Rapidash and this joy started to come back into me, it was really special. And I'd suppose one of the things that actually comes to mind is, like I mentioned, there was that Rapidash heartbeat, where every time I'm in headspace as Rapidash, there's a certain heartbeat that I receive where it almost feels like this beating in my chest ripples to every part of my body, out through my chest, into my fingertips. And if I just happen to be with someone at the time and I'm giving them a cuddle or a nuzzle, I'll hold on to them so when that heartbeat initiates, it could actually pulsate from me directly into them.
Oof.
And then I started to feel that heartbeat myself without being in gear. And I just didn't know how to explain it. But I didn't want to. I just knew it was happening, and that's all that mattered to me. That's the best way to describe it.
That sounds incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing.
That's all right.
Now, as part of every conversation, I ask my guests to bring along something that's influenced their eroticism and their erotic realm. Something like a quote, a book, a film, music. What have you brought along today, and how has it shaped your erotic realm?
So I'm pretty sure it's in like one of my lockup trunks, but it was actually something I found. It was a book. It was actually written by Rebecca Wilcox. She's a real horse trainer, been to equestrian events and everything, but she's also a pony play handler, a dominant in the space. And off the top of my head, it was called The Human Pony, a handbook for owners, trainers, and admirers. Off the top of my head, that's the title of the book. And it was real. I just found it extremely fascinating, one, that such a book even existed, but two, that she went into so much detail about all the different types of pony play, and there was like nothing in terms of like the sexual, intimate aspect of it, but more so, say, that erotic element of it and the romantic aspects of it. But every part of pony play she had detailed really well in that book of hers. And if you can find it, or if people are listening, it's out there. It's very much worth the read. And I think there was one part that particularly kind of stuck with me. I won't be able to remember it word for word, but it was something where Rebecca mentioned how pony play had involved, it was like exploration, growth, communication, emotional balance, resilience, sometimes even spiritual elements to living one's deepest passions. And that really, really resonated with me, because I thought, you're right, because why just stop at one level? Why not go one level deeper to explore even further? So I'd probably say that book really had a very positive influence again on just my journey and the evolution of Rapidash in that respect.
She sounds fascinating and amazing. I'll have to see if I can track her down and invite her on the podcast. That sounds like it would be a really interesting conversation to have.
For sure, because I think the book was I think written somewhere around 2005, 2010, I think.
Okay, cool.
But anyway, I think she's still active. I think I might have actually. It's either her. I follow a few handlers, and I believe she might be one of them.
Okay, great. I might have to see if you can send me that after the podcast. I might have to try to track her down. Thank you for that. She sounds awesome. I can see why she was so influential on you. So we've touched on a few different experiences that you've had. You've mentioned the first time experiencing being handled. I love to ask guests this question about a peak erotic experience that they've had, one that's really stayed with you from all of your experience as a pony. Is there one that you're happy to share with us today?
I would say so. I'd probably say it would have been, I would say the first time that I was taken out in full transformative gear. So this would have been back, again, all the way back in 2017. And it was the very first time where I was with my owner at the time, how it was the first time I would have ever tacked up. All the equipment had rocked up from all over the world. I had put it up. We had not necessarily trained, but we've got me all tacked up, handled me around, seeing what Rapidash was like in person. Got out to the event for the very first time, and I remember just before just shaking like a leaf, just getting everything ready, because it was a nice open car park and we could just walk to the event, and we just got everything like pre-prepped, so to speak. But I will never forget that as soon as that mask went on, the shaking stopped. I didn't even think about it, but just I was gone and Rapidash was there. And again, that part of me just came out. And my owner there even did such a wonderful job at the time, starting to just hold me close, was giving me pats. I was starting to nuzzle her in return, just giving her like little nudges as well, saying that I was ready to go. Again, nothing spoken, all pure body language. And then as soon as I remember going into that event, and just everyone, just as I was looking around, were just saying what a beautiful pony Rapidash was, were asking if they could hold his reins. My owner had also brought a brush as well, so people had the opportunity to grab that brush and give me a nice little brush down with my mane. And I just remembered feeling how every little interaction, every little sensation was just amplified tenfold. And even during that whole time as well, is that I remembered each time, it was almost like people coming to see me as the pony, but I would say walk behind my mistress and actually start to nuzzle her and actually stand behind her or take a knee by her side to show others that it's great that you've come to see me, but my owner is the dominating force. She is the one who's really helping me be here. She's the one you should speak to. And it just was that way of creating, again, like you said, that very powerful, majestic, almost eye candy type pony, but at the same time acting in a certain way where I am the submissive force there. But it was just so beautiful, the fact how everyone treated me as that majestic, elegant horse, that it just made me feel just, again, that grander version of myself, that it was no longer this concept in my head. It was vivid. it was tangible, and it was real. It was standing there in front of everyone.
Mm.
And it made me realize how, even back when I was young and I used to like to get to the art galleries and thinking, I'd love to actually touch and interact with that work of art. And in a way, I created that work of art that can actually be that can be interacted with, and first and foremost, particularly by my owner, and then secondary by anyone else that would come in. And everyone was just so respectful too. I think this thing was really amazing as well. And this actually goes to the BDSM community, especially in Australia as a whole. I haven't had one negative experience where people have stepped over the line or done anything they shouldn't have. So, but yeah, that was probably the biggest erotic sort of experience for me. It was my very first time, because it just made me realize how real the experience of pony play could be. It was no longer something that I had fantasized about. I was living the fantasy. It was no longer a dream.
Oh, so powerful. I love it. And I love to hear that you've only had positive experiences in the BDSM community here. Wonderful. Now, you've been exploring this it's coming up to 10 years now. It's 2026.
You're right.
After all of these years of pony play, what's something that still feels unexplored to you? Is there a part of Rapidash or perhaps another part of your eroticism that you're curious to discover next? What's in the future for you?
I would definitely say further exploration. Whatever that exploration might be, though, I couldn't tell you. I'd probably say I'm like one of those old navigators that have just heard about newfound land, jumped on a boat and just taken a course.
Love it.
Wherever the winds kind of blow me, we'll go from there. I'm not exactly in other words, I'm not exactly too sure what I'm looking for, but at the same time, throughout these years in the community, I've realized that you just never know what you'll learn, what you'll experience next. And the only way, though, to actually experience it is to be on that ship, behind those sails, and just moving in that direction, whatever that direction might take you.
And say there's someone, yeah.
I was just going to say, I'd probably say, even though I've been doing it for 10 years, I'll be doing this for another 10, another 20, another 50, until the very end.
Oh, love to hear it. So say there's someone listening who might have one of these more unusual fantasies where they don't see many people exploring it, whether that's pony play or something completely different. What would you say to them about giving themselves permission to explore it?
I think the biggest thing I would say that there is nothing to be worried, to be concerned or ashamed of, particularly in your own comfort level. And it can be something as very simple as just jumping online and even jumping on FetLife to actually follow other people in that line of kink as well, because FetLife does it really well where they'll actually group up people that are recognized by ponies. They'll look for community groups. They're all out there, and it can all be done from the comfort of your own home. It can be something that you can look into yourself, but also give yourself that opportunity just to start to have a look. Again, if it's something that might say, okay, that was too much for me and you need a bit of time, take it at your own pace is what I'd say is the biggest advice I'd say. At your own comfort level, at your own pace.
Yep. Little steps are perfectly fine.
Exactly, because I think there have been times even where someone might see me, and I've actually received a few messages from people to say that, we saw you at an event or we've seen your profile, but you are really experienced. You're probably one of the biggest pony players, or the most transformed. It's like, we thought we'd try and find something small. It's like, no, please don't be intimidated by me. I'm just a casual, everyday bloke that enjoys pony play. That is as simple as it is. Don't look at Rapidash or me or how long I've been in here for. I'm just your average, everyday guy. Nothing special. So by all means, please feel free to flick me those messages, anything that you want to know, and I'd be more than happy to guide you at the very least.
Oh, love to hear it. And finally, if you had to describe your erotic self in one word and one word only, what would that word be and why?
Affectionate. If I had to put the one word, it'd be affectionate. That tender warmth, I suppose you can call it.
Wonderful. Well, Desmond, thank you so much for joining me today. And yeah, I've really loved this conversation because it's challenged the assumption that kink or even something that we might call a fetish has to be about sex. And your experience of pony play is clearly about something much bigger. And it shows that sometimes our fantasies aren't simply telling us what we want to do. They might be showing us something about how we want to feel or who we want to become. And also which parts of ourselves are waiting for somewhere safe enough to emerge. So thank you for taking us into your erotic realm today.
And thank you so much for having me. I actually learned quite a bit today, and actually really enjoyed the academic shit that you included as well. So it's something that I'll actually have to go back and have a look into further myself. So thank you very much.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you again. I'm Em, and this has been the Erotic Realm podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Erotic Realm podcast. This is an independent podcast, and if you want to see more episodes made just like this one, you can support it at psychologyofdesire.com by becoming a paid subscriber and entering the realm with many other supporters. The mission of the Erotic Realm is to humanize kink and desire in all of its forms, and we can't do that without you. So until the next time, stay perverted.